Okay, so it's no surprise that I love a simple cut of clothing, but not just because I don't love an overly complicated sewing pattern, but because I love the way that these simple cuts really actually let the fabric shine. So whether it's a really stunning print or an intricate shibori dye pattern or a heavy dose of hypnotic embroidery, my personal favorite, these simple rectangular design garments allow the fabric to be shown off and allow the art of the fabric to be shown off instead of demanding that our bodies be shoved into heavily tailored garments. I want to share some of my favorite examples of these kind of made for adornment garments, as I like to call them. What I love about these styles is it allows us to access our bold confidence without having to feel like our body needs to be shown off. So when I was younger, I always felt like I needed to be in fitted clothes to feel confident, like power suits and bodycon. Ugh, and now that couldn't be further from the truth. So when I find myself calling in a personal style that exists more naturally alongside tending to gardens, feeding chickens, hanging out with kids, instead of trying to emulate celebrities walking the red carpet, I began to choose clothing that allowed me to feel free to move, free to create, and free to decorate without too many seams getting in the way. So sometimes this decoration, this adornment, looks like making art on top of clothes, but sometimes a fabric is just so beautiful that the simpler the cut, the better. So take this gorgeous print, for instance. I thought about patchworking it in with some other fabrics. I thought it would look super cool mixed with different prints. But at the end of the day, I was like, you know what? This gorgeous yarn-dyed vintage fabric needs to be celebrated in as simple of a shape as possible. So I made my favorite style, a simple, basic rectangle tee. This also means it would be up closer to the eyes so I can admire it as I wear it. This is the rectangle tee I teach in my software course, but you can also get the lesson on how to get started with a shirt for free when you sign up for my newsletter. That is linked below. So this style, this rectangle tee, is also great because it doesn't take a whole lot of fabric. You're only cutting out the front and the back pattern. There's no sleeve pattern to try and figure out how to fit onto the fabric. So if I only have like a yard of something, or even just a half yard, as you'll see later in this video, if I use like small to medium sizes, you can use like a half yard. But I know I can fit a rectangle tee on it, even if I only have a little bit of fabric. So besides just a gorgeous fabric, if you know me, you know I love a little tie-dye, a little embroidery, a little applique, and that's where this leg of my clothing making journey really started. So after nearly a decade of working in the fashion industry, I decided to strike it out on my own, and that was nearly a decade ago now. And I didn't just want to make clothes, I wanted to make textile art pieces that you could wear. And so keeping the cuts simple not only reduced the fabric waste, I really hated seeing all the scraps of beautiful fabrics for the designers I was working for going straight into the trash. But also keeping the cuts simple meant that the textile arts had a place to shine. And it also meant that my sewing wasn't extremely difficult because I'm not a very good sewer. So this little weaving, for example, on this gown, any extra seaming on the gown would have distracted from the woven panel. So I went with the most simple, long rectangle that works with the lines of the weaving. The crinkle in the cotton gauze allowed it to naturally still provide some shape. It kind of comes in at the waist there because it crinkles in a little. Next up, this tie-dye dress is a patchwork of 3 different shibori dyed fabrics. It's also a long, straight rectangle with a little bit of shaping cut out at the arms and the neck. This fabric is a silk crepe, which I love for dyeing with. It takes the dye and the shibori pattern so beautifully. You can get such nice lines, but it's not the easiest fabric to sew. So these simple straight lines of the patchwork made the sewing so much easier. So instead of focusing on my little sewing flaws here and there, you focus on the stunning pattern of the fabric. And it wouldn't be me if I didn't give an example that included embroidery. So here is a simple top that I made out of some vintage fabric. It was like a silk or linen or cotton blend or something. And this fabric had a beautiful drape, and it also happened to be that perfect midweight for a lot of heavy embroidery. It can be hard to find that perfect midweight fabric that drapes well, but is also sturdy enough to take a lot of embroidery. So I knew I wanted to make this opportunity to make a really bold and striking piece. These simple garments have also allowed me to experiment with new designs without having to get into the nitty-gritty of what garment it will or won't work on. So for example, this Applique Sun. So years ago, I made these shirts, these tees that were painted with a sun with natural dyes on silk crepe. So I wanted to revisit this design, but silk painting is a little bit harder to do with a toddler on my feet. Hand applique is not necessarily any easier. Needles and pins are not kid-friendly at all, but I can at least pick it up and put it down in a way that I can't necessarily do with painting. Also, it means less mess. I have plenty of messes. I do not need any more messes, thank you. So I grabbed a beautiful cotton double gauze that I, for some reason, only bought a half a yard of, because why would you need a full yard of this incredible fabric? I marked the center of one half of it. So I folded it in half and then I marked the center of that, so 1/4 of the way in from the edge. And then I drew the neckline on so I could position the sun at a proper distance from the neckline and the hem. Then I was able to spend my precious free time hand stitching the applique, quickly sewing this into a rectangle tee when I was all done. So this is one of the only pieces in this video that I didn't end up keeping for myself, and I honestly may have to revisit this style because I really love it. Next up, these jackets. They aren't done yet, and I haven't decided if I'm going to keep them or sell them, but these are both hand applique mixed with embroidery on the back of a very simple jacket. This jacket is also part of the Softwork Intuitive Garment Design course. And this next one is a part of my next collection called Fallen Empires. I like to call this design the Ashes jacket. And I took an embroidery that I had planned on making into a tapestry and I just added onto the sides and the top to make this into a cropped shawl collar jacket. Again, this is a jacket I teach you to make in my Softwork Intuitive Garment Design course. I used all those lessons to put this one together. I am hoping to share this jacket as a Make It With Me lesson, so if you're already in the course, keep an eye out for that. So I hope this video inspired you to consider how simple cuts can really highlight your textile arts, or maybe it inspired you to find more textile arts for the garments that you're sewing, or maybe you don't do any textile arts or garment sewing at all, in which case, how did you get here? Just kidding. Either way, if you enjoyed this philosophy of clothing as canvas for art, then you will probably love my personal power suit workshop. So it's focused on embroidery on clothing, but I really think it could support so many other different types of textile arts that could be used on clothing. And you don't have to know how to make clothes to take that class. It's designed to be working with the pieces that already exist in your wardrobe. So you're making embroideries on the pieces that you already own. And if you love the temple on the back of that one jacket, you can make your own version through my Applique Altars workshop. That's one of the patterns included in the course. As always, let me know what you think below. What kind of garments do you find most appealing to adorn? And if you want to know about any topics, I'd love to hear about it. Leave me a note in the comments. All right, hope you enjoyed. Head to mixedcolor.net for more. Oh, and I think this is the point where I'm supposed to ask you to like and subscribe, I guess? I don't know. I'm new to this.